Thanks a lot for that. So lots happening in chemicals. The amine stocks up and active. There is also some talk of phenol prices having gone up. Let's talk about all of that with Rohan Gupta, Director at Nuvama Institutional Equities. Rohan, good having you. Thanks for taking the time out and being with us on NDTV Profit. This is Neeraj here. Good afternoon. What are you observing within this space in hibernation for the last couple of years, at the very least, if not longer? Are things changing at the margin for select chemistries?
Hey Neeraj, hi, good afternoon. Yeah, sure, the sector has not been in so limelight from last 4 to 5 quarters. The reason being has been multiple low demand, inflation scenario in US, Europe impacting demand. And the most important was the destocking across the place while China was continuously putting pressure on the prices. So yes, a lot has gone through in the sector in last 4 to 5 quarters, but now it seems like the things are normalizing. Most of the companies, in my view, have, in terms of earnings, have bottomed out in Q3. And in my universe, under coverage, we are expecting that most of the companies are going to see sequential recovery in top line as well as on a bottom line, except maybe a couple of names which may still continue to report lower earnings. Rest of them, we see that the growth is in place. Now, the big question is that whether this growth is sustainable. I think that most of the companies after their results are going to share the positive commentary about the business environment. Some of the chemical prices we see have already started going up. Demand scenario has already started picking up, except agrochemicals, where we see that global inventories still remain a key concern. Apart from that, I think that some of the end user industries have started showing the sign of improvement. So yes, over next 2 to 4 quarters, we see that the growth prospects for most of the chemical companies, mainly specialty chemicals in nature, are looking better.
Yeah. Hi, Rohan. Good afternoon. Tamanna here. Now, specifically on the Taiwan earthquake factor, and Varsha spoke about it, where production capacities have been hampered, that could be contributing to the stock movement we've seen today. So that's one of the factors. Isn't that going to be, in the short term, not really something that will continue? Because I was just seeing a Moody's report right now as well. The areas where the earthquake has taken place is where you see largely tourism, not so much industry in Taiwan. So what do you make of that one factor?
Yeah, Tamanna, your points are valid, and that's what we are also understanding from our chemical companies to whomsoever we are speaking with. We do not see any very, very significant impact as of now on any of the chemicals. It will be only here and there, but most of the chemical plants which are important and have size, they remain unaffected by this earthquake. Apart from that, we see that it will still be probably more of the news flow driven rather than real disruptions on the products or the supply chain. So I do not see that in a near term it is really going to have any major impact on the pricing environment. Rather than, we are still very closely watching how China, after reopening after the new year, how they play, how the pricing environment pans out in China in month of May. That is more important. If demand globally doesn't pick up much, there is a concern that China may still, Chinese supplier still may dump the prices, how exactly it has happened last year in the month of May, June with the weak demand. The Chinese players dumped the prices, and that have started the lower margin trajectory for most of these companies. So we are more worried about that rather than this earthquake issue in Taiwan.
And when will you have visibility on that factor? Because if we are talking about a recovery in this sluggish sector, from what you're saying, Rohan, it seems the biggest headwind is yet to play out, which is a competitor, large competitor like China, ready to dump again.
Yeah, Tamanna, so you are absolutely right. But as I said, that the scenario is completely different what it was last year, when every company or every end user industry last year was in mood of destocking because the prices were falling, global interest rate scenario was rising. So none of the end user industries wanted to keep the inventory, and neither any dealer distributor. I mean, destocking was taking place across the value chain, supply chain. Now the scenario has reversed. However, we are still not seeing sign of restocking or very solid restocking that may spur the demand. But destocking scenario, in our view, is broadly taken care or over. So now from here on, the supplies and demand are matching, and that's what is going to make the sector stable. If restocking happens, then probably we may see that the scenario can pan out much more favorable than what most of the analysts are expecting. But as of now, we are predicting a normal scenario without, I mean, while the destocking is unlikely to take place now on because the industry has normalized already.
Rohan, my final question is on what's happening with some of the other China-linked commodity chemicals, if you will. Like I said, and I don't know if you referred to this and maybe I missed it, but if you haven't, this talk of phenol prices having moved up, a couple of other commodities came into play as well. Just wondering if China data improves and if production / consumption of some of the commodities moves up, phenol, for example, or some others, could that be net positive for Deepak Nitrite and some of the others, which might be involved in either phenol or other chemistries?
The key raw material for most of these raw materials or commodities are definitely crude. You have already started seeing some positive movement in crude. So I think that the phenol prices is also slightly reflecting that the crude price momentum. But as far as the commodity chemicals are concerned, we see that the prices are broadly likely to remain here and there, maybe 5 to 20% range up from here, but maybe a couple of products we may see some muted pricing environment also, but it will be broadly chasing the crude prices. That's what generally happens. Prices are unlikely to fall in the commodity chemicals. Benefit to the players like Deepak Nitrite and all, we have yet to see because for them raw material prices are also going up. So what we need to closely watch is the spread, how it is going to pan out. But yes, a stable price scenario is actually helpful for or favorable for everybody, whether it's raw material, whether it's the end user industry. So what people don't like much is the volatility, and the prices remain stable, then we can expect the margins or spread for most of these players, including even name like you suggested, like Deepak Nitrite, should be favorable only.
So, Rohan, in the lot, what would be your strategy for some of these companies? What would be your favorites?
So, Tamanna, I will be still looking at companies who are not too much dependent on agrochemicals, because agrochemicals still may have some maybe 1 or 2 quarter weakness may continue. Global demand environment still remains weak and inventories are still there. Consumption-led sectors, so we are more positive on FMCG linked specialty chemical players like names like Galaxy Surfactants, players like Gujarat Fluoro, which are players on which are the stories on emerging fluoropolymer story or demand scenario. The companies who have already been invested in capex like Aarti Industries but have been impacted because of the low demand environment, they should see the benefit of operating leverage. So these are few names like Aarti, Gujarat Fluoro, Jubilant Ingrevia, or maybe Galaxy Surfactants. These are the names which we are more positive on in a near term.
All right. So Galaxy, Surfactants, Gujarat, Fluoro are some of the ones which they're more positive
Aarti
on.
Industries also.
And Aarti Industries, of course. Thank you so much, Rohan. Great to speak with you. And, just get that perspective on what is happening in specialty chemicals, a space which is definitely buzzing. Very quick break. And we're right back. We're talking about OMCs in focus. Kotak maintains a sell rating. What do you do next?
Actually, before we take that break, can I just ask